Good afternoon, James Preston with you on 𝐊𝐿𝐴 TV, live from our studios in Sydney, and it's great to have your company for the Stocks in Action show. First, let's look at the ASX200 and the ASX listed stocks that are trending today. The S&P ASX 200 is up today, gaining 7.6 points or 0.1% to 7,310.1. The top performing stocks in this index are Mesoblast up 6.16%, and Lynas Rare Earths up 5.78%. Over the last 5 days, the index is virtually unchanged, but it is currently 0.34% below its 52-week high. 8 of 11 sectors are higher today, along with the S&P ASX 200 index. Information technology is the best performing sector, gaining 1.95% and 7.65% for the past 5 days. On Thursday, the benchmark index continued its uptrend and marked an all-time high, closing of 7,302.5 after gaining 0.44%. And on that note, let's have a quick glance through some significant market movements globally. Well, let's start with the US market performance. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones rose 0.05% to 34,466.24, while the S&P 500 gained 0.47% to a record high of 4,239.19, surging past its previous all-time high of 4,238.04. The Nasdaq Composite was up 0.78% to 14,020.33, spurred by growth stocks that thrive on low interest rates. The US stocks rose despite the annual inflation rates accelerating to a higher than expected 5% in May, marking the highest annual inflation rate in nearly 13 years. Excluding volatile food and energy prices, the Core Consumer Price Index, also known as the CPI, rose 3.8% over the past year. The higher rate of inflation on economic rebound amid economic reopenings, vaccinations, government stimulus and vast central bank support may well push up the prospect of stimulus slowdown. Moving on to the next news, and the Labor Department revealed that jobless benefit claims continue to decline as the economy recovers. In the United States, Labor Department data disclosed people filing new claims for unemployment benefits has indeed dropped over the last week to its lowest level in nearly 15 months. The initial jobless claims fell by 9,000 to 376,000 in the week ending the 5th of June. Meanwhile, a US House committee on Thursday approved additional spending of US $547 billion in surface transportation projects for the next 5 years in a majority vote of 38 to 26. It's aimed at fixing the dilapidated roads and bridges and improving the rail network. Moving on to the next news, the European Central Bank raised its growth and inflation projections but guaranteed a steady flow of stimulus over the summer. It fears that a retreat currently would speed up a concerning rise in borrowing costs and choke off the recovery effort. The European Central Bank also mentioned that it would buy bonds at a, quote, significantly higher pace than during the earlier months of the year. President of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, said in a press conference that they believe that the steady hand is actually the right response to the situation. She further stressed that reducing, exiting or transitioning away from the €1.85 trillion pandemic emergency purchase program had not even been discussed. And now let's look at some updates on the crude oil front. Crude oil prices surged to more than 2-year high levels on Thursday on optimism for strong energy demand after a fall in US employment claims to the lowest levels since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic back in 2020. August delivery of Brent crude oil futures traded at US $72.38 per barrel, up 0.12%, whereas July WTI crude oil futures traded 0.11% down at US $70.21 a barrel as of the 11th of June 2021 at 10:07 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. The number of Americans filing unemployment claims tumbled to 15-month lows. However, consumer prices increased significantly in May amid ease in pandemic-related lockdowns. The market has recorded a brief plunge after the US Treasury announced that it had removed sanctions on 2 companies and 3 former officials involved in trading petrochemical products. Analysts also believe that the revival of the significant 2015 nuclear deal between the US and Iran will add nearly 1 million barrels per day to 2 million barrels per day in the market, weighing oil prices. On that note, let's now take a very small break on 𝐊𝐶𝐞 TV, but make sure to stay tuned as I'll be back with more trending updates right here on 𝐊𝐶𝐞 TV.
At 𝐊𝐶𝐞 TV, we'll take you to the heart of the Australian equity market. We'll bring you breakthrough stories that highlight volatility, as well as tailwinds building across the length and breadth of markets. Whether space travel will gain momentum, while economies may gradually open amid vaccine rollouts, our experts will share their timely inputs. So join us on this exciting journey of live streaming, financial and stock market news. 𝐊𝐶𝐞 TV.
Thanks for sticking with us. James Preston with you for the Stocks in Action show. And if you're just joining us, we're taking a look at US oil prices, but now let's turn our attention to our home soil and the technology space. Aussie tech stocks index climbed as much as 2.3%, hitting their highest point since the 4th of May 2021. The tech stock index takes cues from tech-heavy Nasdaq IXIC that rose 0.78% on Thursday. The Australian sub-index for tech companies is set to post its second consecutive session of gains. Buy now, pay later giant Afterpay gained as much as 3.8%, its highest since the 6th of May 2021. Software maker Altium added as much as 2.4%, and AI data developer Appen added 2.8%. Australian tech stock index in general is down 7.8% this year as of the last close. Moving on to the Australian gold share space, and Australian gold stocks index rose as much as 2% to be second biggest in terms of gainers on the benchmark index. Gold prices saw an uptick on Thursday after data showed US consumer prices increased further last month as continued economic recovery from the pandemic boosted domestic demand. Sector heavyweight Newcrest Mining climbed 1.1% to 27 Aussie dollars and 82 cents and is on track for its best week since the 7th of May. Northern Star Resources gained 3% to Australian $11 and 32 cents. The gold stock index is on track for its best day since the 25th of May, extending gains for a second consecutive session. Silver Lake Resources jumped 3.5% and Resolute Mining jumped 4.3%. The index is down over 1% this year as of the last close. Moving on, and Growthpoint Properties has exchanged contracts with Charter Hall FLK Funds Management to buy a 100% leasehold interest in an A-grade Sydney Olympic Park office asset for $52 million on a 5.5% initial income yield. The asset is fully leased and its major tenants include B2G Consortium, Jardine Lloyd Thompson and Energizer Australia. Growthpoint now owns 3 A-grade assets in Sydney Olympic Park with a combined value of more than $250 million. The contract of sale is conditional upon receiving consent from the Sydney Olympic Park Authority and assignment of the ground lease and approval of the sale of the property from the Charter Hall Direct Sydney Olympic Park Opportunity Funds uni holders. Well, on that note, let's now take a very small break on 𝐊𝐶𝐞 TV, but stick with us as I'll be back in just a moment with more trending updates, including news of a major Australian hotel chain.
Property by 𝐊𝐶𝐞. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest slowdown in the property market, tune in on 𝐊𝐶𝐞 TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with 𝐊𝐶𝐞.
Welcome back, James with you, and you're watching 𝐊𝐚𝐥 TV live from Sydney. This is the Stocks in Action show. Before the break, we were discussing major news from the Australian shares. Let's now turn our attention to a major Australian hotel and gaming chain. Crown Resorts fell more than 3% on Friday morning and is on track for its worst session since the 23rd of March 2021. The Victorian government in Australia said on Friday it would give additional time and funding to the Royal Commission that is probing casino operator Crown Resort Limited's operations into the state, in order to allow it to investigate a wider range of matters. The Royal Commission, which has been handling the Crown Resorts case for a long while now, is Australia's most powerful kind of public inquiry system, and it can even compel witnesses. The move steps up the duration and depth of the regulatory scrutiny on Crown at a time when it is trying to overturn a suspension of its new Sydney casino licence, which of course provides that cash cannot be used on the premises and instead only debit cards, and is balancing a buyout talk with suitor Star Entertainment Group. The stock has posted its biggest intraday percentage fall since the 7th of May 2021, and it's the third biggest percentage loser on the S&P ASX 200 index. Meanwhile, this ASX-listed stock is in the news today. Bulletin Resources Limited shared on the 11th of June 2021 that an 8,000-metre air core drilling program is about to commence at its Lake Rebecca gold project, with a 150-kilometre east-north coast, east of Kalgoorlie, Western Australia. The Lake Rebecca gold project is immediately a long strike of Apollo Consolidated Limited's 1.1 million ounce Rebecca gold project, and as per the ASX announcement, the 8,000-metre land air core drill program is planned to test the potential for gold mineralisation along strike of a 2.5 kilometre long gold trend identified in the January 2021 successful Lake Air Core program, as well as a structurally complex thrust fault zone along a major north-south structure to the east. Moving on to the next piece of news, Centuria Industrial REIT declared on Friday that it has secured 3 high-quality industrial assets worth Australian $86.1 million. After the settlement of these acquisitions, CIP's portfolio will rise to 66 properties worth more than 3 billion Australian dollars. As per the ASX announcement, the newly acquired properties are 100% occupied on a portfolio weighted average lease expiry, or WALE, of 5 years. Meanwhile, this ASX-listed stock is in the news today. Therapeutic antibody development company Patries Limited has announced that its wholly owned subsidiary, Nucleus Therapeutics Limited, has received a $626,780 Australian dollar R&D tax incentive refund for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. It should be highlighted that the Australian government R&D tax incentive keeps triggering companies to engage in R&D benefiting Australia by providing a tax offset of up to 43.5% for eligible R&D activities. Also, 3D metal printing firm AML 3D announced that they have been granted an Australian patent for its wire additive manufacturing process. It stated the patent provides coverage over method and apparatus for manufacturing 3D metal parts. This is some positive news amidst the backdrop of the falling 41.7% of its share price this year. Alright then, well that's all for now. Stay tuned with 𝐊𝐚𝐥 TV for more live market updates. We'll be back with more news on markets, the economy and diverse themes and sectors soon, and Sage will be with you next for the Market Movers program. I'm James Preston for 𝐊𝐚𝐥 TV.